A cold December morning in 1872, the crew of the British ship Dei Gratia spotted a vessel drifting aimlessly in the choppy waters of the Atlantic Ocean. As they approached, they saw the name on the bow, Mary Celeste. Little did they know, they were about to uncover one of the greatest maritime mysteries of all time. Welcome to Story Seeker H, where today we delve into the eerie story of the Mary Celeste, a ghost ship whose fate remains shrouded in mystery. Benjamin Briggs was born in Wareham, Massachusetts on April 24, 1835, one of 5 sons of Sea Captain Nathan Briggs. All but one of the sons went to sea, 2 becoming captains. Benjamin was an observant Christian who read the Bible regularly and often bore witness to his faith at prayer meetings. In 1862, he married his cousin Sarah Elizabeth Cobb and enjoyed a Mediterranean honeymoon on board his schooner Forest King. 2 children were born, Arthur in September 1865 and Sophia Matilda in October 1870. By the time of Sophia's birth, Briggs had achieved a high standing within his profession. He considered retiring from the sea to go into business with his seafaring brother Oliver, who had also grown tired of the wandering life. They did not proceed with this project, but each invested his savings in a share of a ship. Oliver invested in Julia Halleck and Benjamin in Mary Celeste. In October 1872, Benjamin took command of Mary Celeste for her first voyage following her extensive New York refit, which was to take her to Genoa in Italy. He arranged for his wife and infant daughter to accompany him, while his school-aged son was left at home in the care of his grandmother. The Mary Celeste herself was a robust vessel, built in Nova Scotia in 1861. Originally named the Amazon, it had been involved in several minor incidents during its early years, leading some to consider it a jinxed ship. However, by 1872, it had been thoroughly refitted and was regarded as a sound and seaworthy vessel. As the Mary Celeste left New York Harbor, there was no indication of the ominous fate that awaited it. The weather was favorable, and the ship made good progress across the Atlantic. The last log entry, dated November 25th, positioned her near the Azores, an archipelago in the mid-Atlantic. From that point on, the fate of the Mary Celeste and its crew would become one of the most enduring mysteries of the sea. Briggs chose the crew for this voyage with care. First mate Albert G. Richardson was married to Anissa Winchester and had sailed under Briggs before. Second mate Andrew Gilling, aged about 25, was born in New York and was of Danish extraction. The steward, newly married Edward William Head, was signed on with a personal recommendation from Winchester. The 4 general seamen were Germans from the Frisian Islands, the brothers Volkert and Bas Lorenzen, Arian Martins, and Gottlieb Gauchel. A later testimonial described them as peaceable and first-class sailors. In a letter to his mother shortly before the voyage, Briggs declared himself eminently satisfied with ship and crew. Sarah Briggs informed her mother that the crew appeared to be quietly capable, as she said, "If they continue as they have begun." On the morning of Tuesday, November 5, Mary Celeste left Pier 50 with Briggs, his wife and daughter, and 7 crew members, and moved into New York Harbor. The weather was uncertain, and Briggs decided to wait for better conditions. He anchored the ship just off Staten Island, where Sarah used the delay to send a final letter to her mother-in-law. "Tell Arthur," she wrote, "I make great dependence on the letters I shall get from him, and will try to remember anything that happens on the voyage which he would be pleased to hear." The weather eased 2 days later, and Mary Celeste left the harbor and entered the Atlantic. While Mary Celeste prepared to sail, the Canadian brigantine Dei Gratia lay nearby in Hoboken, New Jersey, awaiting a cargo of petroleum destined for Genoa via Gibraltar. Captain David Morehouse and First Mate Oliver DeVoe were Nova Scotians, both highly experienced and respected seamen. Captains Briggs and Morehouse shared common interests, and some writers think it likely that they knew each other, if only casually. Some accounts assert that they were close friends who dined together on the evening before Mary Celeste's departure, but the evidence for this is limited to a recollection by Morehouse's widow 50 years after the event. Dei Gratia departed for Gibraltar on November 15, following the same general route 8 days after Mary Celeste. Dei Gratia had reached a position midway between the Azores and the coast of Portugal at about 1 p.m. on Wednesday, December 4, 1872, land time, Thursday, December 5, sea time. Captain Morehouse came on deck, and the helmsman reported a vessel heading unsteadily towards Dei Gratia at a distance of about 6 miles. The ship's erratic movements and the odd set of her sails led Morehouse to suspect that something was wrong. As the vessel drew close, he could see nobody on deck, and he received no reply to his signals, so he sent DeVoe and second mate John Wright in a ship's boat to investigate. The pair established that this was the Mary Celeste by the name on her stern, and they then climbed aboard and found the ship deserted. The sails were partly set and in a poor condition, some missing altogether, and much of the rigging was damaged, with ropes hanging loosely over the sides. The main hatch cover was secure, but the fore and lazarette hatches were open, their covers beside them on the deck. The ship's single lifeboat was a small yawl that had apparently been stowed across the main hatch, but it was missing, while the binnacle housing the ship's compass had shifted from its place and its glass cover was broken. There was about 3.5 feet of water in the hold, a significant but not alarming amount for a ship of this size. A makeshift sounding rod, a device for measuring the amount of water in the hold, was found abandoned on the deck. They found the ship's daily log in the mate's cabin, and its final entry was dated at 8 a.m. on November 25, 9 days earlier. It recorded Mary Celeste's position then off Santa Maria Island in the Azores, nearly 400 nautical miles from the point where Dei Gratia encountered her. DeVoe saw that the cabin interiors were wet and untidy from water that had entered through doorways and skylights, but were otherwise in reasonable order. He found personal items scattered about Briggs' cabin, including a sheet stored under the bed, but most of the ship's papers were missing along with the captain's navigational instruments. Galley equipment was neatly stowed away. There was no food prepared or under preparation, but there were ample provisions in the stores. There were no obvious signs of fire or violence. The evidence indicated an orderly departure from the ship by means of the missing lifeboat. DeVoe returned to report these findings to Morehouse, who decided to bring the derelict into Gibraltar 600 nautical miles away. Under maritime law, a salvor could expect a substantial share of the combined value of rescue vessel and cargo, the exact award depending on the degree of danger inherent in the salvaging. Morehouse divided Dei Gratia's crew of 8 between the 2 vessels, sending DeVoe and 2 experienced seamen to Mary Celeste while he and 4 others remained on Dei Gratia. The weather was relatively calm for most of the way to Gibraltar, but each ship was seriously undercrewed and progress was slow. Dei Gratia reached Gibraltar on December 12, and Mary Celeste had encountered fog and arrived on the following morning. She was immediately impounded by the Vice Admiralty Court to prepare for salvage hearings. DeVoe wrote to his wife that the ordeal of bringing the ship in was such that I can hardly tell what I am made of, but I do not care so long as I got in safe. I shall be well paid for the Mary Celeste. The salvage court hearings began in Gibraltar on December 17, 1872, under Sir James Cochrane, the Chief Justice of Gibraltar. The hearing was conducted by Frederick Solly Flood, Attorney General of Gibraltar, who was also Advocate General and Proctor for the Queen in her Office of Admiralty. Flood was described by an historian of the Mary Celeste affair as a man whose arrogance and pomposity were inversely proportional to his ick and his the sort of man who, once he had made up his mind about something, couldn't be shifted. The testimonies of DeVoe and Wright convinced Flood unalterably that a crime had been committed, a belief picked up by the New York Shipping and Commercial List on December 21. The inference is that there has been foul play somewhere, and that alcohol is at the bottom of it. On December 23, Flood ordered an examination of Mary Celeste, which was carried out by John Austin, surveyor of shipping, with the assistance of a diver, Ricardo Portinato. Austin noted cuts on each side of the boat caused, he thought, by a sharp instrument, and found possible traces of blood on the captain's sword. His report emphasized that the ship did not appear to have been struck by heavy weather, citing a vial of sewing machine oil found upright in its place. Austin did not acknowledge that the vial might have been replaced since the abandonment, nor did the court raise this point. Portinato's report on the hull concluded that the ship had not been involved in a collision or run aground. A further inspection by a group of Royal Naval captains endorsed Austin's opinion that the cuts on the boat had been caused deliberately. They also discovered stains on one of the ship's rails that might have been blood, together with a deep mark possibly caused by an axe. These findings strengthened Flood's suspicions that human wrongdoing rather than natural disaster lay behind the mystery. On January 22, 1873, he sent the reports to the Board of Trade in London, adding his own conclusion that the crew had got at the alcohol and murdered the Briggs family and the ship's officers in a drunken frenzy. They had cut the bows to simulate a collision, then fled in the yawl to suffer an unknown fate. Flood thought that Morehouse and his men were hiding something, specifically that Mary Celeste had been abandoned in a more easterly location, and that the lug had been doctored. He could not accept that Mary Celeste could have traveled so far while uncrewed. James Winchester arrived in Gibraltar on January 15 to inquire when Mary Celeste might be released to deliver her cargo. Flood demanded a surety of $15,000, money Winchester did not have. Winchester became aware that Flood thought Winchester might have deliberately engaged a crew that would kill Briggs and his officers as part of some conspiracy. On January 29, during a series of sharp exchanges with Flood, Winchester testified to Briggs's high character and insisted that Briggs would not have abandoned the ship except in extremity. Flood's theories of mutiny and murder received significant setbacks when scientific analysis of the stains found on the sword and elsewhere on the ship showed that they were not blood. A second blow to Flood followed in a report commissioned by Horatio Sprague, the American consul in Gibraltar, from Captain Shewfelt of the U.S. Navy. In Shewfelt's view, the marks on the bow were not man-made, but came from the natural actions of the sea on the ship's timbers. With nothing concrete to support his suspicions, Flood reluctantly released Mary Celeste from the court's jurisdiction on February 25. 2 weeks later, with a locally raised crew headed by Captain George Blatchford from Massachusetts, she left Gibraltar for Genoa. The question of the salvage payment was decided on April 8 when Cochrane announced the award, £1,700, or about one-fifth of the total value of ship and cargo. This was far lower than the general expectation. One authority thought that the award should have been twice or even 3 times that amount. Given the level of hazard in bringing the derelict into port, Cochrane's final words were harshly critical of Morehouse for his decision, earlier in the hearing, to send Dei Gratia under the boat to deliver her cargo of petroleum. Although Morehouse had remained in Gibraltar at the disposal of the court, Cochrane's tone carried an implication of wrongdoing, which, says Hicks, ensured that Morehouse and his crew would be under suspicion in the court of public opinion forever. Over the years, numerous theories have been proposed to explain the fate of the Mary Celeste and its missing crew. Let's explore some of the most compelling. One of the earliest theories suggested that the ship encountered a severe storm or a waterspout, causing the crew to panic and abandon ship. However, this theory is weakened by the fact that the Mary Celeste showed no signs of significant damage, and its cargo was largely undisturbed. Piracy was another popular theory. Could the Mary Celeste have fallen victim to pirates? While piracy was not uncommon in the 19th century, there were no signs of violence or theft. The crew's belongings, including valuables, were left untouched. Another theory involves an underwater earthquake or seaquake that might have caused violent turbulence. This could have led the crew to fear the ship would sink, prompting them to evacuate. Yet this doesn't fully explain why they would leave a sound vessel. A more recent and plausible theory involves the ship's cargo. The Mary Celeste was carrying denatured alcohol, which can produce explosive fumes. It's possible that the crew detected a leak and feared an explosion. In a panic, they might have boarded the lifeboat, intending to stay nearby until the danger passed. Unfortunately, they might have lost contact with the ship and succumbed to the elements. Modern investigations have revisited the Mary Celeste mystery with new technologies and forensic methods. While some evidence supports the alcohol fume theory, conclusive proof remains elusive. Despite these theories, the fate of the Mary Celeste's crew remains one of the ocean's most enduring enigmas. Did they fall victim to foul play, or did a freak accident seal their doom? The truth, it seems, is lost to the depths of history. The story of the Mary Celeste continues to captivate and baffle, reminding us of the vast, untamed power of the sea and the mysteries it holds. What do you think happened to the crew of the Mary Celeste? Share your theories in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to join us on more journeys into the unknown.